Good morning. Viewpoint, program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This well-honed and well-oiled machine starting right on the dot at something like 8:16 or something like that. Right on. Big-time stuff here. We're right on the money here. How are you this morning, Mrs. Busby?
Well, thank you. And yourself, please?
Vertical, which is a wonderful thing.
At our age, it is.
Gentlemen, we're glad to have you with us this morning. Mrs. Busby is going to introduce you very shortly here. We always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two, something going on in the community, or an organization or individuals and so forth. Got a lot of young sports programs. We've got some winners in various competitive events in the various sports. Kudos to all those, particularly one to Judith and gentlemen. We have a national wrestling champion at Lincoln College. Again, we've done very well in that program. You know, you always hear about the two major sports, basketball and football, and they get all the ink and so forth and the airtime. And I understand why that is. We all do. But these lesser sports, such as wrestling and tennis and soccer, sometimes we got a lot of young folks participating in them and doing a whale of a job, and I think they should get some recognition too.
And wrestling, for one, is so intense, and there's no teammate you can pass off the blame to or the buck to. You're just there. It is you all the way. My friend's boy was a wrestler in high school, and the first match she went to, she passed out. It was just entirely too intense for her.
Well, Judith K., speaking of blame, can I bring the soapbox in, Jim? Okay, all right. Well, you know, seriously, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I think anybody with a modicum of common sense understands that we're in serious trouble in this country. We've got a lot of real, huge, major problems. And the other day, Congress had a committee hearing chaired by Nancy Pelosi. Now, she would be the same Pelosi who said that you had to pass the health care bill to understand what's in it. Hello. Are you beginning to get the odor coming out of the outhouse door a little bit? Well, with all these serious problems we have in this country, we trot this gal who's a law student at Georgetown out to appear before a national committee wherein she apparently, obviously the lady is really intellectual, light years ahead of most of us here, but she's inanely stupid when she thinks that somebody else ought to pay for her contraceptives while she enjoys apparently unprotected sex. It just blows my mind that we can waste time and our government officials' time and a lot of money to have a hearing that seems so base. Now, can I get down off my soapbox?
Sure. Well, yeah, but on the other hand, as a taxpayer,
this is my alter ego here. This is, yeah.
It would be a lot less expensive for you to pay for the pill than it would be for you to pay for a baby.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, people kind of really pay attention. I was telling our friend Mark here that that's where you listen, is right through your wallet. Somebody addresses your wallet, they have your undivided attention.
That happens in my house very often.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not uncommon. Well,
seriously,
I have to say
you have a good rejoinder on that, but I still think that there are so many important issues. And then, of course, we have the fire set, and then Big Mouth comes on and goes a little gasoline on it, and media lit it, and it went wild.
Oh yeah.
And we're so far out of whack with reality here. We have all of these pressing problems in the country, and we run amok with something so trivial as that.
I have to say something too, because it's just been eating at me ever since I heard about it. Our Lester's leaders down in Springfield, all due respect to you boys who are formerly with the state of ill. Okay? I don't want to start out making enemies here. But at any rate, the legislators, couldn't give up their nice little gifts that they could give to constituents by way of a free trip to the U of I or ISU or Western or whatever. Okay? But they've decided that the employees could give that up. They could give up a ride for their children. Now, I don't know what a legislator makes. I'm sure it would be easy to find out. It'd be a matter of public record.
That's right.
And I don't know what an employee makes, but I suspect that there's a vast difference.
You think there's a kind of a
Just a
spread
tad.
there?
Just a tad. Just
Yeah.
a tad.
Mhm.
And so the employee who's doing the gardening or doing the housekeeping or driving the truck around, he can give that up for his son. But the legislator, to the big contributor, has it in force. I think that's so special.
Good, I get you. It's nice. I'm going to have a soapbox constructed just for you. It won't be quite as high. You can step up just a little less step up.
Well, far be it that I stand above you, my man.
Well, that's why I was going to make it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, why don't you introduce our nice
I'd
guest
like
this
to do
morning?
that.
Thank
Now,
you.
this is an important issue.
Yes, it is.
Because the 20th is coming very quickly, and Illinois is going to be voting. And in fact, I even saw in the paper this morning that we might have some clout in the choice of candidate in the Republican Party. Usually by the time they get to us, it's a done deal anyway. But maybe that won't be the case this time. So, at any rate, on our ballots here in Lincoln-Logan County, we will have a choice about energy aggregation deal. Mark Pruitt is with the Illinois Community Choice Network, and Mike Maniscalco is with the Economic Development Partnership. Now, they've been working on this, and I think when we read about an energy aggregation, we have no idea what we're... Aggravation, I know. Aggregation, not so much. So we're going to explain this and take notes, because the 20th you'll be going, hopefully, to the polls, and you'll have a chance to vote on this. Now, you're approaching it, gentlemen, from the angle whereby the governmental entities would be in charge of choosing the provider and doing the paperwork for same. However, I could have the same thing if I was real astute by just doing it myself. However, I'm not that into paperwork, and I suppose anytime you're dealing with anything governmental-ish and big corporation-ish, you're probably right up to your ears anyway, right?
There is a level of complexity.
Yes. Well, Mark, let's talk about that level of complexity and pretend I, Miss Flatland's housewife, am into taking
Who's not your
advantage
average?
of something like this, and I think, I will do it myself. What in the world would I face?
Well, good morning, and thank you for inviting me down today. I'll back up just a little bit
Sure.
on that question and give a little context. Right now, you, as a homeowner, can shop for electricity, or you can simply let Ameren deliver
See, I don't think any of
electricity
us
for
do
you.
that at all.
Right, and because it's complex. Where do you go? What information do you trust? Who do you ask questions of? How do you negotiate? Those are all things that, frankly, take time. And folks have more important things to do. So that's what you have right now. You can either go shop on your own, or you can just take the default rate from Ameren. Yes, sir.
Could I interject a question there, please, sir? You say shop on your own. How does Mr. Average household owner do that? Does he pick up the phone and call Illinois Power or some other? How does one go about that? I mean, we're so naive about that.
No, I don't think it's naive. I think it's just new, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well, for most of the consumers, sometimes they shop after they receive something in the mail. They get a mailer from a supplier saying, we've got a great deal, give us a call. Other folks go to the Illinois Commerce Commission website, which has a customer choice page that lists all of the suppliers that service Ameren, and they just go down the list and say, here's my account, what's your price? And they're willing to do that homework. When we talk about municipal aggregation, it's just one more option that's available. Municipal aggregation is the authority that a town, a village, a city, or a county can request from their residents through a referendum that would allow that municipality to essentially put together a purchasing pool of the residents and go and shop for electricity, negotiate a contract, and then make the offer to the residents. No one is forced to join the pool. You can opt out at no charge. Everyone will get a letter in the mail from the municipality explaining, here's the contract, here's the price, here are the terms and conditions. If you don't want to be in this, call this number, go to this website, or send back this self-addressed stamped envelope indicating that you don't want to be part of this. And then you also get a contact from the utility saying the same thing, that we understand an aggregation has been formed in your area. If you do not wish to participate, you don't have to. So this is not required, but it is an opportunity for consumers to have one more option. And the reason why having an option is important is that now there is the opportunity to save maybe 10 to 15% on the total utility bill. And this is just for electricity, not for natural gas. And while that's not all the money in the world, saving an extra $100, $120 a year, that's worth doing in the minds of a number of municipalities in the area. If they can negotiate a good contract, provide good consumer protections, and get a good price, then the feeling is, well, why don't we do this? And I think that's where Mike want to provide some comment.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective as the Economic Development Partnership, we saw this really as an opportunity to kind of bring our entire county together, to bring all our communities together and try to, help out the residents of Logan County. Give them the opportunity to save a little money, and hopefully they'll turn around and spend that money locally and help our economy. It's also, there is a potential to have an effect on some of our small business owners here locally in Logan County as well.
Why the small business owners? For instance, Eaton is a big business owner.
Yeah.
Yes, they're very good to the community. Why do we discriminate?
Essentially, from my understanding, Ameren is setting a rate as to kind of decide where the cutoff is. And I haven't heard if they've actually decided on what that's going to be, but the cutoff of utility usage, where you could fall within the residential aggregation or you become a commercial entity. Now, on the commercial side, people have been going out and purchasing their own power for a very long time already.
Right.
Eaton probably already
So somebody
has
like Eaton, they can shop anywhere they wish to any supplier.
Certainly. And a large entity like that probably has staff with some expertise in procurement, with expertise in, obviously, electricity. And for them, they can step into the market and negotiate a good deal on their own. Municipal aggregation was really envisioned as something to help the smaller consumers. Right now, 90% of the larger consumers purchase electricity on their own. It's almost the exact opposite for small consumers. 98% of small consumers do not shop because it's cumbersome. They have other things to do. And municipal aggregation from the legislative history standpoint was, how can we provide some assistance? We don't want to force people to go and negotiate their own contracts. That was the Texas model, where they raised the default rate to such an extent that people had the incentive or essentially pushed out into the market. I think that this was more of a considered approach that said, well, purchasing pools are good. You get to get a little bit of negotiating power. You get some benefit of having local control. And, it was something to try. And again, this is not a requirement. It's just another option. If a municipality votes for it, great, it's an option. They can participate or not. If a referendum is voted down, nothing changes. There's no recriminations. There's no real downside here. It's just a question of well, if this is a savings opportunity, should we, as a community, capture it?
Now, if you can do this kind of thing for the electric side of the bill, that's great for the all-electric homes that were built in that period of time where there was no natural gas offered. Why can't you do it for gas?
Well, we're dealing with a municipal aggregation as a statutory authority. When it was created, the focus was on electricity. Natural gas has been deregulated for a long period of time. I know that some folks have gone out to negotiate their own natural gas contracts, but it's not widespread amongst the smaller users. I've heard some talk that perhaps that authority to aggregate might extend over to the natural gas markets. At the bottom line, I think the electricity was considered first because on a household basis, typically, the electricity bill is larger than the natural gas bill.
Yes.
So the idea being, well, if we're going to do this, let's focus it on the more expensive energy spend, and if it works out, great. Maybe we can extend it later. But I believe electricity was really the focus when this passed.
I'm a little intrigued as to the birth of this idea. Who was the midwife? In other words, the origin of the whole idea. Take me back to that, if you will, please.
Sure.
Take us. I'm sorry.
No. Historically,
I'm not Obama. Oops.
municipal aggregation's been in operation in some states for 10 to 15 years. Ohio, Massachusetts are two of the first areas. As a matter of fact, Ohio has natural gas aggregation right alongside electricity aggregation. Some other states have joined in recently, like Illinois. I believe that our authority is about 2 years old, and that is about the same time when New Jersey, I believe it's also Delaware, and Rhode Island and California have moved forward with municipal aggregation. Everybody does it a little differently, but essentially the core is how can communities assist their residents and small businesses get a good deal. And the viewpoint in Illinois was, just from a historical standpoint, we had deregulation started in 1997. The large companies, the manufacturers, they started buying their own electricity starting in the early 2000s. Then the mid-sized companies did the same. And then when we got to the end of the rate freeze that was provided for residential customers in 2007, that's when a reverse auction was used to set the new prices. And I think you folks in this region remember that well.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was a lot of pushback. People didn't understand. You know, it's kind of the old story. People can take good news, they can take bad news, they just can't take surprises. And that was a surprise.
Very astute.
Well,
I like that.
yeah, it's something my wife told me. So.
Oh, well, you
mark
might
that
know.
up there, please.
I'm going to.
And so that's when there was a rate settlement agreement that was negotiated by the Attorney General's office and in the legislature. In 2007, they created the Illinois Power Agency, and that's when the Energy Efficiency Portfolio Standard was created, the Renewable Portfolio Standard was created. So there was this heightened attention to how can we fix the market here in Illinois. And as things progressed, I think the municipal aggregation idea took hold because it looked like an opportunity that consumers were not taking advantage of. And they said, well, okay, yeah, maybe we need to help that along. And this seemed to be a good model.
Now, you talked about our bill being a two-part thing. One is for our actual usage of that energy, and secondarily, we have a delivery of that energy charge. Now, if we all in Illinois decide, or Lincoln and Logan counties to start with, decide that we are going to take advantage of this aggregation, then what is to prevent Ameren from saying, well, fine, but we're going to jack up your delivery rate way high? I mean, I hate to say that they're devious, but... My good friends at Ameren will tell you this, and it's true. The two parts of the bill, the one is the energy commodity and the actual electricity. The other is the distribution fee, the delivery. Yeah,
Delivery cost, right.
The utilities, ever since 2007, make all of their money on the distribution side of the bill. The cost for electricity right now has no markup at all from Ameren.
Really?
That's correct. That is part, and that's the requirement of the Public Utility Act. That's a requirement of the Illinois Power Agency Act. And the only way Ameren can adjust its earnings is through a rate case before the Illinois Commerce Commission. If they have a rate increase, or you read about a rate increase, it's the increase on the distribution part of the bill. The energy part of the bill is, they're agnostic. They have no interest in the energy cost above and beyond recovering their cost. So it's a pass-through for them.
Well, in simple words, it's the cost of the gas for the delivery truck.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a pass-through. And that's how their gas rates work as well. So their interest is delivery and reliability and getting a bill out on time and having it be accurate. And outside of that, where the electricity resources comes from, it's not their issue. So to your question, what's going to prevent Ameren from going and increasing rates elsewhere? Well, it's a two-part answer. One is they're not allowed to go and raise rates without the permission of the Illinois Commerce Commission.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And then secondly, whatever rates that are allowed for increase have to be tied to a specific purpose. The stringing of new transmission lines, the replacement of meters is a more recent example. And Ameren, by the way, just filed their plan, I believe it's a 10-year plan, with the Commerce Commission yesterday that outlines how they are going to be staging their system upgrades for reliability, the smart meters, the smart grid upgrades.
You brought up something I want to ask about.
Sure.
Go ahead. I didn't.
So I was just going to, I understand that the utility company is always this kind of mysterious entity that's out there, but I can tell you from my experience as a consumer and also as a former regulator that their ability to recover costs is no bearing whatever on the cost of the electric commodity.
But how many times, percentage-wise, of the times that the ICC is asked if they can't have an increase, does the ICC turn them down?
That's really outside of my area of expertise. I don't monitor.
One of the
things I remember hearing about and reading about as we've been going through the aggregation portion, I know Ameren had gone to the ICC and asked for an increase, and part of that process is very public, and it catches a lot of press. And I would imagine that if Ameren were to go and if we got into an aggregation and Ameren turned around and said, well, we want to increase the rates, I would imagine that we would, one, know about it, and two, we could very, very well and publicly publicize that it would be an inappropriate rate increase, and probably make a bunch of noise on the radio about that sort of stuff.
Speaking of rates and commercialism, we're going to take a couple of seconds here for our commercial break, and then we're going to come back, gentlemen. I want to ask you about you mentioned smart meters, and I read something about that just recently. We want to talk about that.